The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Yaron Brook Show on this Tuesday, August 15th. I'm confused. All right, hopefully everybody's having a great week, and we go. You have a fantastic rest of your week. Today we're gonna cover the news. We're gonna cover a song. I'm gonna give you a song review for free. We're gonna do a song review as part of the news because the song is the news right now. Rich men north of Richmond. Not powerful men north of Richmond. Rich men north of Richmond. We'll also going to talk about Trump indictment number 4. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. God, I'm so sick of this. And we will talk about the climate trial in Montana. Big news out of Montana. In terms of what this means. You have a new constitutional right based on climate change. This is huge. We'll talk about that, and we'll see how much time we have. We can talk about other stuff. I was going to give you an update on Ukraine. We can talk a little bit about China. There's a bunch of stuff going on, but let's start with the song. The song actually deserves doing a whole show on this, and I will. I think probably we'll see. Maybe this weekend I'll do a whole show on this because, and it's not really the song. It's the whole phenomena that the song represents, which I think is worth talking about and reflecting on, and it requires a lot more than just the time we have for the newsy stuff. But I wanted to at least cover it in terms of news. And I think part of what I'll do when I talk about the song as a whole show is talk about the reactions to the song. This is now being defined by Matt Walsh as the protest song of our generation. This is, Oliver Anthony is now the Bob Dylan and the Joan Baez of 2010. This is the defining song of our generation. And Matt Walsh will know because he has so much in common with Oliver Anthony. I mean, their lives are just parallel so much. I mean, they're just so similar. I mean, I'm sure Matt Walsh's complaints about the world are just exactly the same as Oliver Anthony's. Oliver Anthony is the songwriter and singer of the song "Rich Man North of Richmond." So we're gonna talk a little bit about the responses, but we should devote a lot more time to that. Anyway, this song came out, I think it was 6 days ago. It was loaded up online. It has been watched on YouTube over 12 million times, which is a lot. It is the number 1 country music song in the country. It is become a big hit among right-wing conservative commentators. This, as you heard, Matt Walsh considers this the modern the anthem, the protest song of this generation. This is everywhere. I listened to the song. You guys should. It's not particularly good as a song, and it's certainly not getting all this attention because of its qualities as a song. Bob Dylan does not have anything to worry about in terms of either the poetry of the lyrics or the ability of, or the melody or the ability of the singer. I will give credit to Oliver Anthony. It's a song full of emotion. So there's anger. There's real anger in the song, and I think that resonates with people. So there's a certain sense in which it's authentic. But it's not good from a musical perspective, even for country, right? I can enjoy a country song. And country songs often have, very catchy and fun and pretty melodic lines. This one just doesn't. It's not a particularly good song. It's not particularly good music. There's no accident that Oliver Anthony has not been known in the past for his music. Let's get to the lyrics, though, because I think it's the lyrics that resonate with people and the lyrics associated with anger. This is a song about the alienation of American working class. This is a song about the alienation of the people who are dying deaths of despair. This is a song about the working class not making enough money. This is a song about exploitation, about the working class being exploited. I mean, if you had shown these lyrics to somebody 10 years ago, if you'd shown these lyrics to somebody 20 years ago, they would have said, "Yeah, this is a leftist, socialist song that Woody Guthrie could have gotten behind." There's nothing that would have suggested to anybody 20 years ago that this song was right wing. And this song is, I think, more than anything, a reflection of where the right is today, and the tragedy of the fact that there is nobody out there that actually represents individualism, freedom, free markets, capitalism, all those boring terms that nobody finds interesting anymore. That the right today has flipped. You've got, again, this could be sung by Woody Guthrie. It could be sung in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It doesn't really matter. It could be sung by somebody in the 1850s. It could have been sung by Dickens or Karl Marx in the 1850s. There's really nothing here that's right-wing, except, some complaining about welfare, but, not in any kind of really serious way. There's some complaints about welfare. There's some complaint about taxes, but no complaint about taxes as they've applied for to rich people. Just taxes on the working class. It's a complaint. There's a little bit of a complaint maybe about inflation. A dollar ain't shit. Maybe that's the complaint about inflation. But really, there's a hint at pedophilia, which is like the kind of the right-wing thing these days. But thing to complain about. But really, this is just a song that is of the left. I'm gonna read it to you. I'm not gonna sing it to you. I'm gonna read it to you. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. All right, yeah, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. Pay in manufacturing, which is what this is relating to, steadily up, pretty much forever. I looked at some graphs for United States manufacturing jobs, $26.47 on as average as of July 2023. That is significantly above 2016, which was at $20, or 2002 when it was at $15, or 1960 when it was, I don't know, $3, $4, something like that, an hour for manufacturing jobs. So manufacturing jobs have increased. They've never paid phenomenally well. The reality is the value added of a manufacturing job in the United States is very limited. And the consequence of that is that, oh God, why is this not doing that? These jobs are done cheaper and as well in other countries. In many cases, these jobs are done better by robots, machines. A big chunk of the more productive parts of these jobs are done today by computers. In spite of that, wages are steadily rising. The number of people working at these jobs has declined from its peak. The peak was in 1979, 19,500,000, 19.5 million people were working in manufacturing jobs in 1979. Today, it's about 13 million. So they've declined from 19.5 to 13 million, but still 13 million Americans work in these kind of jobs. Are they poorer today than they were in 1979? Probably not. Purchasing power, quality of life, standard of living might not have increased dramatically. Because again, but has increased. 1979 wages, I'm just looking at this graph, probably around $7.50 an hour. Today it's 26.5. That seems to have outpaced inflation from 1979 to today. I'd have to run the numbers. Wait a second. Maybe I wonder if this is already inflation adjusted. Anyway, it's no, these are not inflation adjusted. If you look at inflation adjusted, they're making more money. Manufacturing jobs have always been tough. They're hard. They're grueling. You don't make a fortune. You certainly are not going to become rich working as a manufacturing laborer. You're going to be middle class. You're going to be maybe lower middle class, depending on, that's an average wage. People in managerial jobs make a lot more than that within manufacturing, and people just starting out make quite a bit less than that. But so the average is 26 with a little bit of tenure and stuff. Maybe you're making 30, 35. And so people have been complaining about these jobs forever. So I sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. Now, so he's bitching and complaining about his life. And a lot of people are complaining about their lives. But whose responsibility is it? His life. Why is he wasting his life away? Why is he sitting out here? Why isn't he pursuing something better? I mean, this is where the left and right completely fail, right? They completely fail. Why doesn't anybody care about personal responsibility? Why doesn't anybody challenge these people to do better? I mean, I think that's the cause of death to despair, is they're not challenged. They're not taking responsibility for their own lives. They're just, okay, this is it. This is manufacturing job, $26 an hour. This is what I'm going to do. I work. I waste my life. I know I'm wasting my life. I do nothing about it. I don't have the balls. I don't have the guts. I don't have the ability. I don't know. I think it's the guts and the balls. I drag back home, drown my troubles away. Yeah, alcohol, drugs, whatever. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to. For people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it's not be true, but it is, oh it is. Was the world for people like him any different 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago? In rural Virginia, wherever he's from? Was it really that different? Now, I think it was, in the sense that there was a lot less envy in American society. There was a lot less looking at what other people have, those people north of Richmond. And by the way, north of Richmond, so that's all of Northern Virginia, it's wealthy people. So there's a lot of less envy, a lot more satisfaction in what people had, a lot more taking responsibility for your own life and trying to do something with whatever you had. There's a lot more about building families and building communities and building a life today there's a lot of bitching, complaining, moaning, and comparing ourselves to people north of Richmond and not matching up. Living in the new world with an old soul. Is it a new world, really? Is in that sense it a new world? These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think? Want to know what you do? And they don't think you know, but I know that you do. Because your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, because of rich men north of Richmond. So yeah, taxes are too high, way too high. Including on these working people who are, he would pay probably about 20 to 25% of his income in taxes. Way too much. He probably doesn't have a lot of the deductions, a lot of stuff to deduct. But remember that out of that 24, 25, a big chunk of that, right? A big chunk of that, what is it? Probably over 10%. So almost half is Social Security and Medicare. Is anybody out there in the heartland, or any of the manufacturing workers want to give up their Medicare and Social Security? Probably not. And they're going to use much more Medicare than they put in. They'll get their Social Security back if the system doesn't go bust. They'll get it, but their Medicare, they're going to use a lot more than they put in. And they want Medicare because that's what will pay for their health care after they reach 65. Are they really willing to give that up? Is that what this song is about? I want to privatize health care. I want to privatize Medicare. I want to privatize Social Security. No, we know that that's not what it's about. Yeah, they're complaining about the people up north wanting total control. Good reason to do that. They do want total control. I would say the powerful men north of Richmond want total control. They want to know what you think. They want to control you. Left or right, they want into your life. They want into your mind. They want into education. They want control over who you are. So it's a protest song about people who are too powerful and want to control us too much. He writes, I wish politicians will look out for the miners, and not just miners on an island somewhere. That's reference to Epstein, right? Actually, miners, if you look at wages for coal miners, this is not far from coal mining territory, significantly higher than manufacturing. They get a premium because of the risk they take. So it's about 20% higher than it is for miners. Now, it is true that those jobs are going away because of the whole climate change, green energy stuff. So, yeah, in that sense, politicians are not looking out for the miners. Lord, we got folks in the street ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. I mean, unfortunately, some obese are probably milking welfare, but obesity is a massive problem in the United States. One can talk about why it's a problem. Maybe I go back to the issue of personal responsibility. Where is that? So he's complaining about obesity in America, as everybody should. It's terrible. He says, well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. The empirical evidence about how much food stamps are being used, to make obesity worse, not really there. But yeah, I mean, I'm against welfare. I'm against food stamps, and but who's the problem, right? We've got a lot of people with obesity, and it goes to the same thing, right? It goes to the same problem. Is the problem the wages? Is that why they're obese? Is the problem welfare? Is that why they're obese? In a sense, yes. Because welfare sends everybody a signal. Don't take care of yourself. Don't think for yourself. Don't worry about yourself. Obesity might also be part of the epidemic of deaths of despair. Obesity might be part of the alienation and the depression and the suicide and the alcoholism. Just the fact that so many people out there feel so just depressed about the world, as this song reflects. But again, what's the cause? Is it really rich men north of Richmond that are causing all this? Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground because all this damn country does is keep on kicking them around. A young Ben being kicked around? I mean, Lord, it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true. And then, the last line is, I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. Same way it opened. This is a song of frustration. This is a song of angst. This is a song of anger. Embraced by people who Matt Walsh, I don't know if he's ever worked in a factory in his life. I don't know if he knows what a factory looks like. I don't know. Maybe he has. Maybe I'm not being fair. Picked up by intellectuals who have a strong incentive to promote this kind of angst, to fuel it, to fire it up, to use it for their own political means. I suspect Matt Walsh belongs more to the rich men north of Richmond than he does to the rural Virginian that works in a manufacturing job that this song represents. Just like this angst was picked up by the left in the 1960s and 70s, this kind of angst and frustration and anger is picked up by the right today. There are no solutions. There are no answers. All these populist right-wing or left-wing, all they want to do is use this to enhance their power. All they want to do is tap into this. How many people who listen to this song and who support the song and have embraced the song, how many of those people are middle-class kids? How many of those people wouldn't know what this kind of angst looks like? How many of those people are much more interested in the politics of this than interested in actually resolving the problem of deaths of despair, of youth suicide, of people really struggling out there? All right. Anyway, that's the song. There's a lot more to talk about this, the whole attitude that exists out there in the country. Nathaniel Branden wrote a really good essay years ago in the 1960s for Ayn Rand on, I think it's in Capitalism, Not an Ideal, on alienation, and I think it so fits our time. It so fits our time in terms of the way people feel. It's not about what existentially is out there. It's not about how much money they make. It's not about the quality of life or standard of living. It's not about any of that. It's about how they feel about their life. It's about how they relate to their own life. It's our educational system has so corrupted them, is that they can't relate to their own life. They feel impotent in the face of the world before them. They feel that they cannot take control of their own life. And the question is, why do they feel that? And I think it has to do with the philosophy and the culture, the education and the culture and everything else. All right, I am way behind. Let's see. All right, quickly. We all know that you all know this. We talked about this yesterday. I said the indictment would come down yesterday, and it did. Donald Trump was indicted together with 18 other people. This is the first indictment that has included significant numbers of other people, including Giuliani, including Meadows, his chief of staff. So it includes a bunch of people, which is going to be interesting because the prosecutors might be playing some of these people off of one another. There might be some deals to be made so that some people testify against other people. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. They are indicted for a conspiracy. So there is, RICO comes into this, and RICO, of course, is, there's a sense of justice, I feel, if only because Giuliani is one of the people that has been indicted. and that he, of course, pioneered RICO, primarily pioneered using RICO against financiers, against Michael Milken, Ivan Boesky, and others. Now, Ivan Boesky was a real crook, but Michael Milken, of course, was not, and many of the people that Giuliani went after were not crooks, and actually were ultimately their convictions were overturned. But that's after he destroyed their lives and destroyed their businesses. RICO was passed in 1970. It's called the Racketeering, Influence, and Corruption Organizations Act. It's a horrible law with lots and lots of problems. It raises First Amendment issues. It raises issues of due process. It raises lots of constitutional issues. I'm sure Giuliani will raise many of those issues when it's time for him to be in front of a court. Of course, he didn't raise them at the time. All this is about the attempts of the Trump, of these people surrounding Trump, Sidney Powell and others, to reverse the election results in Georgia. Again, I mean, one of the things unique about these prosecutions, these cases against Trump is it's, this, we all know this happened. His phone call asking for 11,000 whatever for them to find new votes and find this. That's all been documented for years now. None of that is in question. They've got witnesses. They've got witnesses who were Republicans, because most of the election officials were Republicans. They've got plenty of witnesses around this. This all happened. Now, whether it rises to a conspiracy and all of that, that's what a court is there for. But, is there any doubt that Trump tried to reverse the election in Georgia and did whatever he could to reverse it? This wasn't just theoretical. This was in action. People were sent to Georgia to try to do whatever they could to figure it out, how to reverse the election result. Again, they might have to prove that he knew he lost. So we'll see. I mean, it's all going to be boring to watch. And I wish none of this happened. I wish he'd just gone into the sunset and disappeared. But there we go. There we go. We will see. We will see how all this plays out. It's going to make this coming election a complete and utter circus, and could plunge this country into a real constitutional crisis, into real challenges. And I don't know how the country overcomes it, because there is a certain percentage of the Republican Party, 25 to 35% of the Republican Party, who is just 100% committed to Trump. I mean, there's 50, 60% that are going to vote for him in the primaries, it looks like. But there's 25, 35% that will go do anything that he tells them to do. And that could create real mayhem if he gets convicted and if he's forced to withdraw from the race. Republicans are also very afraid that if Trump withdraws from the race, those Republicans who would have voted for Trump will not vote, will not participate in the election. And as a consequence, the Democrats will win, because that 25 to 35% of Republicans will be so disgusted by the process, they'll just stay home. All I can say is they made this bed. They're going to have to lie in it. They're going to have to survive this. All right, here's a story that I'm sure is going to make your day. So in Montana, young environmentalist activists, these are young people, sued the state of Montana, sued them because the young people argued that the state agencies were violating the young people's constitutional right to a clean and healthy environment by allowing fossil fuel development. A judge yesterday ruled in their favor. He ruled that the state has an obligation to consider or has a constitutional obligation to consider a clean and healthy environment for young people. And as a consequence, right, to reevaluate all fossil fuel permits, right? It's the first time a U.S. court has ever ruled against a government for violating a constitutional right based on climate change. Now, this is a state court, not a federal court. It's based on the state constitution, not the U.S. Constitution. And, you know, this is going to be appealed, and we will see what happens on appeal. And, of course, you know, Montana is a major producer of coal-burnt electricity, has large oil and gas reserves that are being exploited. And this is, you know, for now, I think primarily just a big PR stunt. But it is a big deal. Right? This is a big deal. These young people are convinced that they'll be convinced by Greta and her pals and her intellectual supporters that they are going to die. Their lives are going to be shortened by the use of fossil fuels, and they are demanding that the state protect them. The dean of the Lewis and Clark Law School in Portland says, the ruling really provides nothing beyond emotional support for the many cases seeking to establish a public trust right, human right, or federal constitutional right to a healthy environment. There is no such right, not in the U.S. Constitution, not that even our Supreme Court will accept. It's just unbelievable that a judge would rule this way, undermining the entire nature of our Constitution, that we have some kind of right to these kind of outcomes. Where would these kids be? Would they even exist? What would their lives be like if we didn't have fossil fuels? They have no conception of that. No conception of that. I was encouraged today, though, to read. Oh, I think I just closed that window. To read out of the UK a Substack. This is here it is. It's Substack. It's the Claire Fox Substack. It's a Academy of Ideas out of the UK. The title is "Extreme Weather: Can We Adapt to a Changing Climate?" And his conclusion at the end is, should we spend trillions on reducing our greenhouse gas emissions? Given that economic losses from such events can be enormous, isn't prevention better than cure? Or would that money be better spent on making society more resilient to extreme weather? Does the narrative of climate change catastrophe get in the way of less dramatic measures that can protect people and property? And he's talking about the fires in, among other things, the fires in Hawaii. And the focus of the article is climate deaths are down. We can spend money, not that much money, on preserving human life. And it's actually, and the cost of reducing fossil fuels is just astronomical when we can spend a fraction of that protecting ourselves from, nature, from maybe catastrophic event or bad consequences of climate change. And it's straight out of Alex Epstein, right? I mean, the whole line of reasoning is straight out of Alex Epstein. So here you have an Academy of Ideas, which is kind of a left-of-center organization in London, in the UK. Hard to identify left-of-center. They're very good on free speech, but Claire Fox, I mean, basically, it's a Marxist organization that is good on free speech and anti-woke, but they're Marxist in the sense of class, redistribution, state ownership of resources, things like that. So it's interesting, kind of the combination. But here they're taking on climate change. They're taking at least this one writer out there is Rob Loynes, Alex Epstein approach to climate change. So we are having an impact out there somewhere. All right, we're about halfway to our goal. Lots of questions, but only halfway to our goal. So Because we have a lot of questions, we have limited time. Please, only $20 questions from now on. Only $20 questions now on. Friend Opposite sounds like Bjorn Lomborg. Yeah, it sounds like Bjorn Lomborg, and of course Bjorn Lomborg is being influenced by Alex Epstein, so let's not minimize Alex's. All right, Eric, so what we need is 6 $20 questions, and we're there. We're at where we need to be. Your last show on religion made me think of We the Living, where one of their quasi-heroes was Andrei, a communist. Kira was drawn to Andrei because he was an atheist. What are your thoughts on Andrei, and what were Rand's? Yeah, no, I don't know what Rand's thoughts were. I don't know what you wrote about him, although we do have in the journals and other places there is, but I don't have that in the top of my head. But she wasn't drawn to Andrei because he was an atheist. She was drawn to Andrei because he was an idealist. She was drawn to Andrei because he believed in something. He was idealistic. And he was wrong about his ideals. And ultimately, he was very wrong. And ultimately, when confronted with how wrong and how evil those ideals were, he had no choice but to take his life. But it's that, I mean, Ayn Rand, you know, she took seriously people who took their ideas seriously. None of this wishy-washy, measly mouth. I mean, think of the other characters in We the Living who were communists. They were communists, but they didn't really believe in communism. They try to, use the system for their own advantage and sneak a little bit here and sneak a little bit there. They talk communism all day. But there wasn't this, it wasn't like Andrei was kind of a working class person who hated the old system because he was exploited under the old system as he really was, and believed that communism was a solution, and believed that communism was better, and had a whole idea around communism, but he really bought into it completely and lived it, and had and what Rand really hated were the people who had no sense of any kind of integrity. And Andrei is portrayed as wrong and mistaken. And mistakes that have caused him to do horrific things that he can never recover from. And therefore, he has to die, right? He has to. And the system of communism can't allow the real idealist to exist because the system is inherently corrupt. And the people who view it as some ideal, perfect ideal, cannot exist within it because the corrupt people are not going to allow them to survive, are not going to allow them to be there. So those are some of my thoughts on Andrei, but it's not primarily his atheism. It's idealism. He believes in something, and he's willing to fight for that belief. He's willing to go all out for that belief that attracts her to him. And he's strong. He's a powerful man. Right? Eric also said, just finished the Romantic Manifesto. I'm having trouble understanding Rand's concept of sense of life as a pre-conceptual evaluation of metaphysics. Would you mind fleshing this out? Yes, it's as a child, you don't think in terms of A is A. You don't think in terms of I belong on this earth, I am competent, I am able, I can live in this world. But you have a sense of it. You have a sense of it. You relate to the world as if A is A, as if existence exists, as if you've accepted certain, versus some children who complain bitterly about metaphysics, about reality. They demand even the primacy of consciousness. They can't articulate it that way, but they've accepted those premises. And they have a certain emotional state, a pre-conceptual state, an emotional state of, I demand reality adjust to my feelings, versus a mentality that you develop when you're young, again, without really articulating it, of I accept reality as it is, and I deal with reality as it is. That's just one example. The same is true of a certain mentality that accepts it's a reason as its way of dealing with reality. Most people can't articulate that and say, yeah, reason is my way of dealing with reality. But there are a lot of people out there, people who work for a living, people who deal with reality, people who are challenged by reality, people who use their reason day in, day out to deal with it. They don't have a conceptual view of it, but they have a general sense. They have a certain confidence in their mind and its ability to deal with reality without actually conceptualizing that idea. And sense of life is the sum of all that. It's the sum of your attitude towards reality and towards yourself, towards your place in reality and your ability to cope with reality. It's that sense of the world is a beautiful place, and there's amazing things to do in this world, and I can do them. That some people have, that they never necessarily put into words, but they have it. And then there are others who, the world is an ugly, dark place, and nothing I do will ever make any difference. And that's a different sense of life. That's a dark, ugly sense of life. And that's a sense of life. Sadly, I think that's a sense of life that more and more Americans have, whereas they used to have the opposite of kind of this depression and this acceptance of, I get a bullshit wage and I go home and there's nothing I can do about it, and I get obese and I put a bullet in my head, or I take fentanyl, or whatever. It's a certain attitude, and that attitude is all negative. That so much exists. It's Friend Harper says sense of life equals implicit philosophy. Well, but it's a particular part of philosophy. It's the particularly the metaphysics. It's your attitude towards reality, your attitude towards you as man, a man's ability to cope with reality. So he says, I like the formulation, philosophy is the science of turning implicit feelings into explicit convictions. Well, that's not really right? Because that's not what it is. There's a sense in which that's true. You've got to do that. You've got to take your implicit, but your implicit might be inconsistent. They might be non-philosophical. You might have all kinds of implicit convictions. And it's not obvious that they are consistent. You bring them to the forefront and then you figure out what's consistent and what is not. Okay, Andrew says, if Trump is anti-ideological, what is the cause of the fervor of his supporters? Anti-ideology. They hate ideology. They don't want ideology. They don't want consistency. The fervor is a form of nihilism and anger and frustration and wanting to break things. It's wanting to tear it down. And in this case, I think the main thing they want to tear down is what they call kind of the Richmond north of Richmond. It's the authorities, it's the establishment, it's the people who command the swamp, if you will. It's people who have money. It's the elites. It's people who know stuff, the experts. It's elite and expertise and success. It's anger towards all that. It's anger towards the fact that nothing has changed in the last 30, 40 years. It's anger towards the fact that the left seems to be everywhere and they're destroying this country, and the only way to deal with them is to smash them. It's the same way they dealt with us. Right? Let's see. Michael has, you noticed a few GOP candidates are unabashedly using the word capitalism instead of free enterprise. They seem like they're more ready to defend it. Maybe. The only one I'm familiar with is Nikki Haley, but maybe there's some others using capitalism. Certainly the leading candidates are not. Maybe, I don't know if Vivek uses the word capitalism. I hope he doesn't, but he might be using it. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a certain part of the Republican Party that's willing to still defend capitalism, but certainly not the party of Donald Trump and rich men north of Richmond and DeSantis, right? That part of the party is not interested in defending capitalism. Michael says, why did Ayn Rand appear on Phil Donahue twice, given how corrupt and dishonest he was? He only had her on in an attempt to discredit her and her ideas. Well, he had, he had her on because she was an interesting person, because she evoked strong responses, because it made good TV ratings. I mean, don't attribute to him motivation that you don't know, but it made good ratings. I think that's why he had her on again. On the other hand, Johnny Carson was very nice to her and had a really nice, pleasant discussion. Why didn't he have her on every year for 10 years? Why did he stop having her on? Who knows why producers of these shows, how they make decisions on what, but it's primarily, at the end of the day, ratings. She was an incredible guest. Michael says, do you think one of the reasons it's harder to regulate tech because much of it fails under First Amendment protected activity? No, I think it's not harder to regulate tech. They're getting to it and they will do it. I think that they didn't regulate tech for a long time because, to some extent, I think they realized that in order to have this goose that lays golden eggs, one after the other, they better not touch it. And I think politicians know what regulations do. They're not idiots. They know the impact it has, and they know that if they regulated tech, they would destroy this incredible innovation machine that they need in order to, just like they needed the industrialists and Atlas Shrugged, in order to suck it dry, both financially and use it for their own power lust. California regulates tech a lot less than it regulates other businesses for exactly the same reason. The budget of California depends on tech being successful. Michael says, is the concept of being the bigger man legitimate? Like if someone's a jerk or obnoxious, not to stoop to their level, or is that an altruistic injustice to yourself? No, I mean, I think it's absolutely, you don't want to stoop to the level of somebody's a lying, cheating thug. Do you want to be a lying, cheating thug? So yeah, absolutely. You want to maintain your integrity. You want to maintain who you are. You want to maintain your own identity and not stoop to somebody who you clearly don't respect and clearly whose behavior is not your behavior. Ryan says, please make a short video with picture of this guy and everyone share. I'm sure that'll be done. Christian is on it, would be my assumption. Gayle says, evasion of reality seems to dominate the culture now. Thanks again for all you do. Yes, I think evasion is dominant, but it's evasion and victimhood. I mean, one of the things that is unique, one of the things that has changed about the right, I think this is true, and you'd have to study history to find, but I think certainly true over the last 40 years. One of the things that changed around the right is it used to be the left was the victimhood, and now the right matches the left in its victimhood. Everybody's a victim. Everybody's whining. Everybody's complaining. Everybody's a victim of somebody. Everybody's a victim of something. And it used to be that the right used to yell at the left, take personal responsibility. And now that's gone. Now that idea of personal responsibility is gone because the right can't look in the mirror, doesn't want to look in the mirror. How many of the people who love this song are obese and on the right? And I mean, the song kind of blames welfare and food stamps for obesity. But how many, I mean, if you look around obese people, look around your job, look around, the South, the Midwest. I mean, red America is far more obese than blue America. It's just interesting, right? Catherine says what Gayle said. Thank you, Catherine. Oh, by the way, we're about $80 short if somebody wants to step in and do some stickers. We're out of time for questions, but if somebody wants to do a sticker, we can do that. Colt says, I'm so glad you covered this song. It's terrible. I haven't liked new country music since I realized how hedonistic it's become. However, that music is much better than whatever this was. Yeah, I mean, this is a victimhood thing. I mean, it's right in the first paragraph. I get bullshit overtime wages, and then I go home, and you know what the left says? I read this left economist. He said his answer to the song was, join a union. You should join a union. They'll raise your wages, give you better benefits. And that's right. That's the left's argument. And it's probably the right's argument as well. We should have more unions. They take care of those workers. Enough of this capitalism exploitation stuff. Frank says, money question, why are there no more $1,000 bills? Well, because the government doesn't want you to have $1,000 bills. It's too easy to move large sums of money in cash if you have $1,000 bills. They want to make it very difficult for you to move large amounts of money in cash. So if you have to write a check or if you have to do an electronic transfer, then the government can monitor that. And indeed, anything over 10,000, the bank has to report it to the government. So the government is watching you. They are controlling you. That is true. That part of the song is absolutely right. But if anything you do over $10,000 in a bank, and now with peer-to-peer stuff, anything you do over, I think, $600 has to be reported to the government. So it's against money laundering, tax evasion, and just so the government can monitor what you do with your money. Okay, Charlie, probably the last question, but we still have time for stickers. We've got 82 people watching, $1 a person, and we make it. All right, you should really go on more. You should really go on more online shows if you get the option, like Sitch and Adama. It's always good fun. I go on every show that asks me to. Pretty much every single show that asks me to come on, I go on. So there's no way for me there's no way for me to get on shows except for you guys to write to the shows you like or write to the shows you enjoy online and encourage them to invite me. And if they invite me, I will go on. Almost every show. No, I won't go on every show, but almost every show. Jupiter Menace just did a sticker. Thank you, Juniper. And you can too, and help us get to where we need to be. Were there other stickers that I missed? Yes, Stephen Harper. Thank you. Who else did I need to thank that didn't ask a question? Shali, thank you. Yeah, I think we caught everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the support. Thanks to Super Chatters. I've got something at 2, so I have to run. And I will see you. Tonight. Tonight we'll have a show on the future of the dollar, the present and the future of the dollar. What else? Yes, tomorrow there are no shows. I'm traveling tomorrow. And I'm not sure about Thursday. Might be a show on Thursday, depending on if I have time in my hotel room. But tomorrow, no shows for sure. Tonight, probably after 8 p.m. It'll probably be 8:30 for the show tonight. Probably 8:30. Sorry to keep you up so late, but I've got something that starts at 7, and I'm not sure when it's going to end. And maybe even 9, so we will see. We'll play by ear as we go along tonight. But there will be a show tonight on the dollar, on a continuation of the show we did before on the dollar. This time it'll be about the future of the dollar. We'll also talk about dollarization in Argentina and so on. The other alternative is maybe to do the show at like 5:30. So I might do the show at 5:30 Eastern Time or at 8:30 Eastern Time. I'll let you know. Bye, everybody. I'll see you tonight, one way or the other.